let's talk about episode number 5, She-Hulk. The title of this episode is great. It's Mean Green and Straight Poured into These Jeans. Beautiful title. I am seeing some complaints about this show. And I think there are some valid criticisms of the show. Of course, there's valid criticisms of anything. But I think people don't understand this show. I truly do. On a basic level, I feel like there are a lot of people that don't get that this is a sitcom. And they don't. And I think they're forgetting, because every time they think, and we've talked about, there's an overarching narrative, right?
Yeah.
But it's like every other sitcom. There's bottle episodes, and this could be considered a bottle episode.
Yep.
It does have an overarching theme.
Yes.
But it's very self-contained, and I think people have these preconceived notions that because it's in the MCU, it has to have an overarching narrative. It has to have a connection to something else.
A guest character every time.
But it can't, and that they're trying to do something new. They're trying to tell you, no, this is a sitcom, and people are still finding ways to bitch about it. I just don't get it.
You know, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, how this show, considering how they talked about the MCU and all the other stuff, this show should be their favorite show, because it really does kind of deconstruct the MCU in a rather original way that they haven't done to themselves yet. And it's firmly tongue-in-cheek. It hits... I've said this before on our YouTube channel when these fuckers tried to, all you do is say cuck and simp and, whatever. You don't actually have... And, there are good things about this show. And there are reasons why I like it. And I've explained them many times.
Yeah. Well, I think this...
But it hits all the notes of the Byrne run. She's perfect for the character.
Well,
we're seeing how she's...
Again, I just don't... I think it's just people don't understand that this isn't a WandaVision. This isn't Loki. This isn't Falcon Winter Soldier,
should we say what they expect me to say?
What?
Or they're misogynist bigots.
Yeah.
That's all I got to do.
Now, look, I'm not...
I don't have to make an argument.
If you have a legitimate... you just don't like it, that's totally fine.
Absolutely.
Some people,
Absolutely.
bad people are just not going to like things. But I think...
There's a guy that...
But I think if you're going to say it's boring and nothing happens, then you're lying.
Or just stop watching
You just can't accept that it's
not for you,
slower
that's
paced.
fine. Maybe it's not for you.
Well, but here's the thing. There's a lot of people that bitch about this in the MCU, and a lot of them are saying that they hate that the MCU is so by the numbers, and it's the same thing over and over and over again. And in a lot of cases, yeah, you could argue there's a
valid criticism.
There's a formula. They've been making these movies for 13 years now. They have a formula. They're going to do what they do.
Yeah. Fuckers.
And
sorry, I don't know what that was about.
So when they try and do things differently, it doesn't always meet the best criticism. Thor Love and Thunder tries to do something a little... Ragnarok does something different. Completely changes the character.
Remember how I talked about, within the first 10 minutes, I'm like, what the fuck am I watching? And then I realized, okay, lean into it, or you're not... You know what I mean?
Again, a movie with valid criticism. Like, I'm not saying that Marvel movies are above criticism. I think there's a lot of criticisms to be had. But I think... I don't think there are a lot of people that dislike this show because they don't think it's funny or they don't get it. A lot of them, I just think that it's not what they wanted and it's not what they expected, and that's fine. I'm sure that they probably
it's hard
wanted.
For me to believe that if you're a She-Hulk fan of the comic book She-Hulk, that you don't like this show. If you don't, then you have an agenda.
Yeah, but I could see how normies that are not normies that don't read She-Hulk and whatever mainstream.
Yeah, but isn't the criticism always that we get is that we don't read comic books? So clearly the people who are making
I don't
these...
Look, man, I don't want to fucking talk about these people. I really don't.
I'm not talking...
I know. I don't want to veer in that territory.
I'm not, but I'm not.
No, I'm just
bringing it up.
Shooting it down.
I'm just bringing it up that there have been criticisms that we don't read comic books, and that's patently false. Now, hey, you know what? Let's be clear. If you've read the comic books and you're a huge fan of comic book She-Hulk and you still don't like the show, that's also your right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't really care why you don't like the show. I think you're flat out wrong, but you don't have to explain it to me. It's okay. But stop watching it and posting fucking videos about it fucking 3 times a day.
Well, no, they gotta get the algorithm.
Right. You gotta fuck it up so that we have to talk about them to get any sort of
Yeah, exactly.
But I like the
that's the way it
show.
works.
You know what? Remember when I was talking to you about there was a part in the show that I felt a little bit preachy? Remember that?
Yeah.
When they're having the drink afterwards. All right.
Yeah.
They're having the drink afterwards, and she was like, haha, isn't that, we just have to deal with guys like that all the
Yeah.
And I got to be honest. But here's the thing, Jake.
Sure.
It seemed a little preachy, but guess what? I'm a white dude, and I don't really get to tell women or people who are not white how to address the wrongs that have been done to them by our society, by and large, for very long periods of time.
So you feel better. Yeah. So your white guilt doesn't feel.
You know
as
what I'm
bad.
saying,
Yeah,
right? So, I don't really get to
and,
say.
and there are ways to have those valid criticisms
Sure.
and things like that.
But there was a point during this episode that I accepted the criticisms that have been leveled by some people, whatever.
Well,
which is usually, it's too woke or whatever.
Yeah. So I want to just talk about the episode itself because I think too much we focus on the culture around it, and because I just don't get it. I just don't understand. Like, no, I've already said it. I don't need to repeat myself.
I thought it was good.
There's just so much bad faith criticism.
I don't really like the way they're using Titania. I really don't. Titania is a fantastic fucking character.
Yeah.
A very
I'm sure
nuanced,
there's payoff for her.
Sure,
later.
but a very nuanced character with a lot of depth in the comics. And I will say this: if I do have a criticism about this show, and I do, it's that I really don't care for how they've used Titania. Now let me say this: the idea of having an influencer who is also a villain and a superpowered individual is really a kind of an interesting way to have different, antagonists in this MCU and everything. So I do like that. I just wish they wouldn't have used that character's name. Use a throwaway character that hasn't been seen since 1962.
You know what I would have loved? And it would also tie back.
Millie the model. They should have used Millie the fucking model.
Well,
dude.
I was going to say a more current character that Dan Slott created called Screwball. She's kind of what they're doing with Titania, where she's an influencer. But her games are like she's heavily featured in the Spider-Man game for PS4. She's also I think she was a big Superior Spider-Man villain, I think, for a little bit. Like, not really big, but she was kind of one of their jokey characters that Slott likes to do sometimes. Anyway, I think she would have been cool to do for this because I think a lot of people, and again, maybe it'll pay off at the end of the season, but for right now, it just seems like they're not. They have
We're not
this.
even halfway through. Well, yeah.
And I got to tell you, if there is criticism to level at this show that I have,
Yeah.
it is the writers weren't joking. They do not know how to write court scenes. Because the court scenes, if you've noticed, are super short. Don't always make... They just don't... Honestly, the court scenes feel the most disjointed thing in the show.
Can I just say, if you're watching this show for authentic court scenes, you're in the wrong place, probably.
I'm not.
I know you're not, but I'm
Yeah.
saying if that is a criticism, that's fair criticism, but also, what are you doing?
Well, I mean, people are going to say you're making
You're probably
you're
gonna get-
doing a lawyer show, but you're not really featuring it in the court. But then also, I'm like, it's still a comedy, and they said Ally McBeal was their inspiration, so it's going to be a little bit weirder and out there. And
Yeah, you fuckers.
yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like there can be some criticism for that, but I get frustrated when people say nothing happens and nothing move forward, and I'm like, again, it's a sitcom. We've established... What have we established? We've established there's someone else outside of the Tinkerer that's making suits. Mm-hmm. We've also established that Daredevil. I was trying not to say it because I want to talk about it later, but yeah, let's fucking talk about it. Okay. No,
You know, like
I was fumbling around because I'm like, do I want to talk about Daredevil right now? Because I was thinking about that. But I just thought it was funny with the Avengers and Avengers.
Wongers.
You can get an eye with it.
Did you see it upside down, Wongers, on Facebook or whatever?
No.
If you put it face down, it's Wongers, like Madison.
Nice. But did you notice okay, so Nikki, her friend, her paralegal,
Yeah.
and Pug, the good guy in
Yeah.
the show.
Yeah.
They're trying to get the new Iron Man 3 shoes, which is funny in and of itself. But when they go and pick it up, they go to like this bootleg guy, and if you notice, he gets Captain America's shield, he gets Mjolnir, but like Captain America's shield's color scheme is different, so they get escape copyright.
Oh yeah.
They got the T-shirts that say Avengers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
No, that was pretty entertaining in itself. I like those characters.
yeah.
The two of them, they seem like it's those fun kind of like, kindred spirit types.
Yeah.
They're secondary characters clearly, but they're able to shine when the spotlight is on.
Yeah.
them,
And it's getting the show a little bit more to do with not just overreaching MCU stuff. I think. What did you think of the reveal of Daredevil? Because on one hand,
I was really surprised.
on one hand, I was like, "That's cool, that's awesome," but on the other hand, I was just like, I wish he wasn't have shown in the trailers because that would have been such a bigger moment if we had not known he was showing up. At some point.
But I think it's also okay to whatever, tip your hat sometimes. But I really like. I think that I don't know if she's gonna show up in like her super suit. And to be really honest,
there's been shots of it.
She doesn't really have like a costume per se, like Spider-Man does.
Yeah, and we've already kind of seen it.
She has a color scheme.
Yeah.
It's kind of white and purple.
This one looks mostly purple.
Okay.
Based on the shots that I've seen.
It's kind of like a skin tight, like what is it called? Not a onesie,
a romper.
kind of, but a skin tight romper. It's got it goes down the legs and.
Must suck when she has to pee.
But I'm willing to bet
Just
that
take the whole thing
the
off.
second thing she got was like lingerie or something.
Oh yeah, maybe. Well, that's another thing I wanted to talk about this episode. It again deals with what I said it was going to. It's dealing with Jen and She-Hulk in the opposite way that we saw with Bruce and Hulk, where we are again presented with the fact that she has to have these guys that she went on dates with show up to prove that she used the She-Hulk
But also,
name.
no offense, but you're not my type. Like, oh.
Yeah, which is.
Ouch.
Yeah, shot to and she said when she's
shot to the heart and you're to blame.
She said when she started the dating profile that was a joke where she's like, this is gonna hurt Jen's confidence, and we're seeing the classic She-Hulk stuff where she is battling with her alter ego in a different way than Bruce does, and that's why I think this is such a cool concept, and it's cool to use modern dating and swiping left and swiping right and just all the things that can go into it. And yeah, there wasn't a lot of action in this episode. This is a little bit slower of an episode, but I think that's fine because it's finding its footing. It's understanding what it is.
And can I level something at one of the criticisms is the wokeness and whatever, but can we maybe just look at like the dating like in episode 4? Where it was like the speed dating, and then again we see them again in episode 5. They have to bring them by to be like, Can't we not start? Can't we just look at that as cringy, like kind of comedy, like all of The Office?
Yeah.
Why does it? Because the main character is a woman. You know what I mean?
It's the classic
funny, cringy.
Yeah, it's just the classic tale of the dating.
Comedy works when it's like
it's just
uncomfortable.
a classic comedy tale of dating,
Yeah.
and how sometimes dating can intertwine with your work life in unexpected ways.
Oh yeah,
and you don't see that usually in a superhero show. And
you don't.
And you know what? There are probably people that could levy an argument like, why wasn't this just a separate show by itself? Why does it need to be in the MCU? Why does it need to be She-Hulk? And I'm like, sure, you can have that criticism, or you can just be like,
separate show.
Like, just it shouldn't even be tied. Like, it shouldn't even be She-Hulk. It should listen. It should be its own show. I'm not saying it should be. You know what I mean? I'm saying that people would argue like, what's the point of having this in the MCU? What's the point of this being in Marvel? If it's just a sitcom,
I'd argue that it's very important to the MCU. Actually, incredibly important. It's deconstructing the MCU in the way that they have not done yet, and it's satire at almost perfection.
Yeah, I think that most of the time it lands comedy wise. And I do love that the MCU is poking fun at itself. I think too many people take the MCU seriously.
Right, yeah.
Way too many people.
You think? And here's a fair criticism as well. I do go into every episode of She-Hulk expecting a good episode. I'm not going to lie about that. I expect a good episode, and my expectations are no matter what I see, I'm probably going to like it. Now, that's a fair criticism to say, like, well, you don't really look at the episodes objectively. You guys don't really review them objectively. That's fair. But we're definitely not shills, because, again, where's that fucking check, Disney?
Where the fuck is it?
I want that fucking check. Hey, I'll be a shill. I don't care. I just want to see the actual money.
Yeah, exactly.
Until then, I am a Marvel whore. We know this.
Yeah.
I am a Marvel
whore.
Think of the comedy.
Spoken by an actual potato.
Did I send you the Wrigley Field audio?
No.
We went to Wrigley Field
today. You fucked it up, you son of a bitch. No, I'm kidding.
We went to Wrigley Field today. Did you tell
Yeah, I think it was a good episode. I still think I liked last week's episode more, but I thought this was fine.
Not every episode is the best one so far.
No, I don't want to say that, and I don't think.
And you know what? I felt like that with Moon Knight, and honestly, I don't really remember Moon Knight. Like
honestly,
I like this show because I'm more of a fan of the character. I've always been. I know more about the character, and
yeah, and I think. For me too, I think their episode 2 didn't really work for me. I thought it didn't. You could argue nothing happens in an episode. I feel like, even though there are things that happen, it just. I don't think every episode's great. And I'm not. When I think
it's what are you looking for?
When I think it's bad, I'm going to say it's bad. But yeah,
right.
What I'm looking for is some. You're right. When I watch that show, I'm not going in being like, how is this going to fucking...
you specifically.
How is this going to grow the MCU? Or how is this going to do this, that, and the other?
Yeah.
I'm honest. I know. But I'm saying I want to watch this from perspective of it's a sitcom. It's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be silly. It's leaning into that silliness of it. Yeah. And again, I appreciate it on a level of it's them trying something new, especially with the Disney Plus shows. I think they're starting to understand that the 6 episode arc, which is basically just a long movie.
Yeah, it takes.
I think they're starting to understand that maybe that's not working, and they need this. This is tailored to Disney Plus, and we talked about this last week. We keep talking about. This is smart to make this show the way it is and make it feel like a fucking show.
What was it? Moon Knight was 6 episodes, remember?
Yes.
You know what Moon Knight would have benefited from a lot is a 7 or 8 episodes.
Yes.
Because I feel like that 6th episode, they had to wrap everything up.
They should have done a couple of episodes in the asylum.
Yes.
And they should have kept it.
Oh, God, yes. It was like, what, 10 minutes?
It was
get back on the ship now.
Yeah.
I'm a hippo.
Also, I like how this phase in Marvel or the MCU, there's like, kind of in Marvel comics, like all religion is kind of real, so we're just going to go with that. And that's what we're going to do here. But yeah, if they would have had a couple more episodes in the asylum and done the Jeff Lemire run, I think it would have made a better show. But that's just me. And
introduce Jake Lockley earlier instead of a throwaway fucking gag at the end of the fucking final episode.
Again,
that was shit.
I wish Daredevil was not in the trailers of this show because that reveal at the end of this show is so good.
I know. And it sucks to be you, doesn't it?
It sucks to have all this great knowledge. Be this great.
I know.
Anyway, episode 5, it's good. We enjoyed it.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens next week.